Hi there, this is a quick tutorial video to cover an issue which lots of people experience when they're developing in Unreal, and this is to do with the camera, specifically the collision test on the camera. It's going to be a very useful boolean for stopping and clipping through walls. However, it does come with a bit of a drawback, as you are about to see. So when you get a bit too close to the player, it will clip through the 3D model, and this can sometimes just look a little bit unprofessional. So there's a quick and easy fix to sort this out, and we're just going to run through it now. So we've got our material which we're using on our player, and the first thing that we want to do is be able to change the opacity. So at the moment it's surface and opaque in terms of the blend mode. We just want to switch the blend mode so that it's masked rather than opaque. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is go to content browser, go to materials and textures, and create a new material function, and call that dither. Essentially what this allows us to do is have a function which we can just use time and time again and drop it into a material. So in the same way in a blueprint you'd have an event which maybe is just a one-time thing that you'd be able to call, a function, you can just drop it in, use it wherever you need to without having to just rewrite out the code each time. So the first thing we're going to do is going to get the camera position, so that's the position of the camera that's actually being used by the player, and then the absolute world position. You actually need to type in world position rather than absolute. For some reason there's a bug where it doesn't recognize absolute. We want to get the distance between these two places, so the material itself, or the place where the light is hitting the material, and the camera position, so where you're viewing it from. And then we want to divide this by the distance. So we'll add an input, a function input, and change the function input to scalar, because we only want a single number as opposed to 2 or 3. And essentially what this will do, and give us the option to be able to add in a distance that we want to check. So we're going to look at the distance itself, and then we're going to divide it by a distance. So for instance, if you're looking at 100, the distance is greater than 100, it'll always be over 1. If you're under 100, then it'll be under 1. And we want to use that particular amount to set the opacity on the material. Very, very cool. So the first thing we'll do is just change the input name, and we'll call this distance. Call this distance. And just on the X value we'll put in a value of 200. So Unreal scales in centimeters, so 200 centimeters is actually 2 meters. And there's a tick box underneath as well that we want to choose. Preview value is default. If we don't tick this, it'll always ask for a default, so it's good to have a default amount. You can always change it if needs be, but just make sure you've got that tick box set. And then we will put that amount into the output. Great, so now we're looking at a distance. We're getting how far away we are based on 0 to 1 essentially. Over 1 doesn't really matter. And then we're going to find that in our content browser, pull that into material, and drop it into the material itself. And then we're going to use a particular node which is called dither. Essentially it looks like a noise mask. You can read the tooltip and you'll see exactly what it does, but it's just useful to know that it's a nice way of fading something in and out. And so we're going to choose on the alpha threshold on this particular node how much alpha we want. I'm going to pop this straight back into the opacity mask. Simple. And just make sure that we have set it as masked, otherwise this won't work. Right, we can already see in the preview node that as we move slightly further away it becomes completely visible, and as we move in it becomes invisible, and we're texturing it out rather than it just disappearing. Now obviously you can change the distance, so we've set it as 200, press 1, and then you can just add in an amount you like, pop that into distance, and that automatically changes once it renders, so that now it's from 500, and it will slowly fade out as well. Delete that and have it back as default. Great, move on to the look we want. Let's apply that. So this material is already applied to my player, and we just go check the effect. Great, so now as and when the camera does the collision test, we move very close to the camera, it's slowly fading out. Really nice. The best use case for this is something like foliage, so as you're moving through trees and so forth, you can put this onto those materials, so it doesn't just clip in and out. Very cool, so great effect, very simple, and I highly suggest you give it a go. Alright, thanks very much.